Welcome everyone. Impromptu live stream. Missed it Monday. Was too busy. Maybe wasn't in the mood a little bit, and I put on a way better show when I'm ready to live stream. So, first, let me apologize to anyone that I'm overrunning. I try to do research on when is it available to live stream where I'm not overlapping someone. Turns out, never. Basically, 24 hours a day, there's someone doing a fish YouTube live stream somewhere. And so, being that that's how it is, I'm just going to go live when it's convenient for myself and guests, because the new studio will probably have guests and stuff, and it's too hard to always just go, this time, always. So, know that if I'm running over the top of your live stream or your favorite creator, I'm sorry. Please go watch them instead of me. Like, that's not trying to steal anyone's thunder here. I don't even know if someone's live streaming right now, but probably. So yeah, today we're doing a members only because I didn't do any videos for members this week yet. And I also wanted to pare down the chat so everyone can see it, but I can only see people that will talk to me via membership. I realize all I can say is, we're just gonna have to deal with it. So, to move forward, digging into the questions. So, Joel says, I've got a hold of some L002 plecos. Can you give me any info about them? Well, they're not the most common. They're not the most expensive either, which is good. But mostly they need a little bit of meat in their diet. They'll cohabitate with most of your community fish tanks. Being that it's a pleco, don't keep it with Amazon sword plants or just sword plants in general, whether it's red flame sword. They typically will eat on them. And try to get maybe some rapashi morning wood food or another food or just driftwood in there so they can munch on wood while eating proteins and other stuff that you're normally going to feed anyway. So not too difficult of a fish though. Catfish in general, most of them pretty hardy, easygoing, and not very finicky when it comes to foods and most things. Next up we've got from Brian. He had 2 Bolivian rams die. Before it died, had one of the 2. Before it died, lost a lot of color and didn't eat anything when it usually would. He was 2 years old. Any ideas what that might be? Some people said sounds like stress. It always could be. It could be, probably 10 different things. Where my brain goes is, how well was it dewormed when it was in your tank? How long have you had it? Fish don't usually die quickly from stress. And what I mean by that is, if we were diligent about looking at our aquariums and the fish was absolutely fine until 2 weeks ago, and then it became stressed out and dies 2 weeks later, it's usually not stress that led to that. That would be like months to a year's worth of stress. Now, it could be we're noticing the symptom of it being stressed and it's getting beat up by another fish or bullied. Could be like where my brain goes is, did we have any internal tapeworms that were just slowly kind of siphoning nutrients and it was getting weaker and weaker and weaker? And then our human brain clues in with like, hey, that guy doesn't look so good. Meanwhile, that's been a slow decline for maybe years even, right? Because you've had it for a couple years. So that's where my brain would go is like, well, maybe that, because we can control that. Could be like, oh, it had something going wrong inside of it. Could be cancer. Could be, all these things we have no control over anyway. So I probably wouldn't, think about those things. We have no control. So I try to go with, what do I have influence over? And could I have missed that? Possibly. Check water parameters, do all the normal things. All right. The next question that came at me was, what new items are coming next to Aquarium Co-op? Now, this is a minefield. And so I'm going to show you and like tease some things, but not tell you, because that instantly leads to when is it coming? And for lack of a better term, nonstop harassment, not by any one person. It just, the minute I say, we're releasing Aquarium Co-op Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, 50 people a day will go, hey, is it coming out this week? I'm placing an order. I just don't want to place an order unless it's coming out, or if it's going to come out, I'll wait. And so that like just jams up our boxes. So I'm going to show you just like products that we are working on. You won't know what they are, but it'll kind of demonstrate some stuff. So like, here is one product that we're working on. Here's another product we're working on. You can see they're at the point where, we've got labels and packaging. You can see This right here, this is another package. Same with this one right here. And I can actually tell you about these ones. This is new packaging for root tabs to resist getting crushed. Not that very many get crushed in shipping, but we want to make that a little more robust. So 60 count and the 20 count there. So, you know, and it's got a sealable lid that would be torn off, and you know, not 0.2, 0.2 plastic, so it can be recycled. Like, you know, looking at this, so some stuff is just product packaging changing. Let's see if I can. Something like this is in the works, right? And then we have, where was the other things that I just had? I put them away? Oh no, right here. We've got this liquid that we're considering. We've got this other liquid that we're considering and testing. So there's definitely things in the works, and some things could be released as soon as like probably the next 2 or 3 months, but we're not rushing anything. And that's what happens once we put out the word that this thing is coming. It tends to speed up our approval process a little bit because we're getting hammered. So just know that there's things being worked on. I don't think anything's necessarily like mind-blowingly game-changing, but I think most people will use most of these products that we're trying to develop. So and there's some other stuff going to like the retail store, you know, like some plastic bags. We're having a hard time getting plastic bags because of COVID, so we're gonna produce our own bag. So things like that. All right, trying to catch up here. I know I'm wicked behind. Is it a good idea to purchase a TDS meter if you're gonna dabble in the world of shrimp keeping? In my opinion, no. There's breeders that would definitely say yes. It's not that it can't be a useful tool, it's that I've never needed to use one to breed fish, or to breed shrimp. I used to breed tons and tons and tons of shrimp back before I was ever on YouTube. It was a decent portion of my income at one point. But a TDS meter just tells you some stuff is in the water. It doesn't tell you what's in the water, and it's far more important to know what's in the water versus you just have stuff in water, right? So, for instance, if it just says you have money in the bank, you need to know how much money you have in the bank, right? Or there's stuff in your car. Like, well, what stuff? That's the important part, is knowing how many minerals. Is it, oh, we tested 300 TDS. Well, it's all prime dechlorinator and not minerals. Or so that's where I don't think. So is it a good idea to purchase one? The reason I would side with no is because a lot of people don't have an unlimited budget, and there are odds that you might be able to better put that $10 investment somewhere else, or just save it instead of like I would encourage you, take that $10 and just buy maybe another shrimp or two, and that'll get you closer to breeding more fish than a TDS meter will. And this is assuming you have proper test kits, because that would supersede all of this. Like, you really shouldn't be keeping live animals in water without a way to test the water. So I hope that you have that. I'm thinking about doing a Congo river tank this year. What is compatible with Congo tetras and African butterfly fish? Most fish on the planet. You know, if it's Congo themed, you're gonna have to look up what Congo fish could I do. Like, maybe you're gonna do like crebensis, maybe buffalo head cichlids, there's like tons of African tetras. The problem with African tetras is, like, that guy is kind of cool. Like, $27 for one tetra. Wow. So you run into that shock of like, oof. You could do bichers. You know, maybe you get like a Senegal bicher, not some of the larger ones. There are things, obviously. Maybe you go with some multicolor cichlids, you know, Pseudolabrochromis, multicolor Victoray, or one of the other variants. But, you know, when you get into those biotopes, you're just making things harder for yourself. And I like to make things easier on myself. And so when you make it harder, it's harder to source. Compatibility can be harder sometimes. And I much rather just go like, oh, well, what other fish in the hobby do I want to keep? You know, you might be like, oh, blood parrots will do amazing with those fish. Oh, but they're not from the biotope. Well, no, but they still do amazing, and I like to keep them. Are we going to throw a rager party for Sassy's 17th birthday? The reality is probably not. But it was Wincy's birthday Monday? Might have been Monday. So we did do a little bit of Dairy Queen vanilla ice cream for them. Wincy tends to wear it on her head because her tongue is so long. She'll whip it as she's licking, and it throws it onto her own forehead. So that's its own, amusement for us. We've got a 10-gallon breeding Apistos, but all my other tanks are not fry friendly. There's bigger fish. The fryer in a breeder box, 3 spawns. How should I grow them out without another tank? I feel like you've already answered your question there. You basically have said, like, you need a bigger tank. How can I do it without doing the thing that needs to be done? Like, well, I mean, sure, you could start dividing tanks and things like that, but all of that, any other process is going to be way more work than setting up like a 10-gallon aquarium, because in my opinion, that takes about 20 minutes. So if you're, you might be like, well, I'm in an apartment, I'm physically limited. Maybe we don't breed that many fish then. I mean, not all fish are made to be raised up all the way. That's why an angelfish might have 700 babies, thinking 1 or 2 might make it in the wild. And so if you run out of space, I mean, Dean runs into it all the time. I run into it all the time. You don't pull spawns. That's the thing. If you're pulling all the spawns and you don't have a place to put them, like for instance, you have 3 spawns in a breeder box, you were way better off having 1 spawn in a breeder box and trying to raise them up than trying to raise 3 spawns all at once. So limiting what you can do, and that's really it's an exercise in control. It's exciting when you have everything breeding and you've got all this stuff, but you end up doing everything usually at a lesser degree because you're trying to manage more with less resources. Someone's getting fish shipped in tomorrow. They need to instant cycle a tank, one of my sponge filters for another tank. Yeah, I mean, decorations, anything from a well-established tank will bring some bacteria in. And then this is what I always do, and people think I'm crazy for it, but this is what I do. Typically, when I bring fish in, I just won't feed them for like at least a week, right? And so they're like, well, aren't they hungry? Well, yes, they are. But if I feed them a ton and then ammonia kills them, like that's clearly worse. So I'll land fish, usually just hit them with some meds and things like that and just do nothing with them other than that. And then like after a week, and it's not, people always like, well, it's going to be 5 days, not 7 days. Like, can I feed them then? Like, sure, you can do whatever you want. And it's not a hard, fast rule here. It's kind of, oh, they were looking crazy hungry. They were starting to get aggressive on day 5. Great, throw them a little bit of food. But usually it's like, okay, once the next week, the week after that, maybe 2 or 3 times. The week after that, like 5 times. And then you might get to 6 or 7 times a week. But fish in general, you could take most fish that are in the hobby, not feed them for probably 2 or 3 months. They will be alive and very skinny. So when you look at the course of like 7 or 10 days, that happens to every fish you're ever going to buy pretty much. If it goes through a wholesaler, like at the farm, it was not being fed for 2 or 3 days before it shipped. It then takes 2 or 3 days if it goes international to hit a wholesaler. So now it's been like 6 days. Typically, they're going to feed like most wholesalers like once a week, honestly. So they might get 1 meal in, and then they're going to not, like, usually maybe they'll do it on the weekend, knowing that they're going to deliver orders 5 days a week. So then they, might feed once on the weekend, and then your local fish store gets them on a Thursday. So they haven't eaten since that Saturday. Before that, they hadn't eaten for a week. They've eaten once in the last 12-ish days. Then they're going to go to a store. Now, that's where I always say it's the store's responsibility to feed a bunch. And we do that, quarantine, feed them back up, get as much food as you can into them, really spoil them, have well-cycled tanks at a store and everything. Then when you get them, you might think, you just heard all that, and you're like, well, I should spoil them. And you could if you had a well-cycled tank and all of that going on, and you wouldn't be at risk, right? But in a situation where you need to put fish into a tank that might not be all the way cycled, you're better off taking it very light, because once ammonia gets introduced, then you start running into problems where like their gills are getting burned and they're needing lots of nutrition to start fighting that off and a really healthy immune system. And yes, they might already be fighting off fin rot or something from shipping or a local fish store or ick or something like that. But you know, I think we put a lot of importance on that food. You know, it's kind of like if I break my arm, the first thing's not to get a cheeseburger. It's like, okay, work on this. Like, I'm not gonna starve to death in the short term. But if we spend all our time feeding and doing all that, not addressing the broken arm, maybe it becomes a much bigger problem. So focus on immediate threats, knowing that the food and the cycling part is a very long-term thing. The reality is you can run a tank that will never cycle ever, and it would keep fish amazingly well if you just change water all the time. And so the cycling of an aquarium, while it can be a big event in someone's fish keeping career, is not a quick thing if you're tracking it. It's very easy to stay on top of if you have the information in front of you. So you got a test kit, you know your tank's uncycled, you're bringing in some bacteria, you can kind of bend the odds in your favor by going, okay, yeah, I'm not going to feed them for at least 3 or 4 days, and when I do, it's only going to be a tiny little bit, and then maybe that 6th or 7th day I do my partial water change, and I've been checking the water every day and limping my way through that and making a nice easy transition for them. So I'm sure questions are stacking up faster than I can answer them because I'm kind of doing a long-winded answer to a lot of these. So I'll try to get to as many as I can. If I don't get to them, my apologies. At some point I might skip to the bottom because I haven't seen, for all I know, I could be, audio doesn't even work at this point. I have a 29-gallon with neons, a few mollies, and a blood parrot. I set it up about 3 months ago, and the blood parrot and the mollies occasionally flash on surfaces. I see it maybe once every couple of days. My concern there would be you've got mollies typically want very, very hard water. Neons, usually softer water. Not necessarily lower pH, but softer water. And then you've got that blood parrot that'll tolerate like anything. I don't know what your water parameters are, but you could run into a situation where maybe if it's lower pH and lower hardness, the mollies are uncomfortable. Maybe they're scratching because it's too acidic. Maybe they're starting to get some ick or something. When I see like repeated flashing and other signs that fish aren't happy, that would worry me. If it's the problem is with occasional, it might be like, well, I had an 800-gallon tank and I saw a fish flash yesterday, and then today I saw a fish flash today. It's like, well, if you have 500 fish and you only see it once, that's not really a problem. But if you like, oh man, I'm seeing them do it like every hour, it's lots of fish, that leads to more like it's a more spread out thing. So I don't want to start a false like, oh, well, Corey said like once you see flashing, like you should be doing something. It's a sign that you should take notice and try to document how frequently is this happening. You know, if you get a headache once every 6 months, probably not too serious of a thing. If you get a headache every single day, it's time to start thinking about like I should get checked out. Is this something going on, right? So it depends on frequency, and spending time with fish will always help with that kind of stuff. All right, thank you to the people that became new members. Just know that because you became a new member doesn't mean for sure I can answer your question, because there's probably more coming in than I can handle. So Casual Aquatic says, Corey, I know you said salts. Hold on. Salt's not your fancy as a saltwater tank, I see. But do you plan to dabble into it in the new shop? I don't. I like to automate a lot of things like water changing, and I like to be able to feed the same foods and manage large scale stuff, because that was what interests me. And so if I was going to do a whole wall of saltwater, maybe. I think saltwater creatures are fascinating. Don't get me wrong there. But the work to enjoyment ratio doesn't line up for me personally. If I was to downsize and to keep one aquarium, I would be much more likely to go saltwater. But I also prefer having lots of aquariums and keeping lots of different fish. So that's where I would say that maybe as I get older and I retire or something, I could maybe go towards saltwater, but right now I'm in the thick of it. Any thoughts on the current state of Celestial Pearl Danios? They seem extremely susceptible to disease, and fish stores I've talked to are keeping them warmer than is typically recommended. I don't think they've changed at all in the last 10 years. So I think in general, they've always been problematic for stores because, one, they don't keep them cool enough. Two, they don't hatch out live baby brine. And my store is a great example of this. When I was running the store, so I ran the store for, 3 years or something? And when I say run the store, I was there like every day, right? Maybe it was a little longer, I don't know. When I was there every day, there was years where I would hatch out live baby brine every day. And by doing that, something like a Celestial Pearl Danio, it's a night and day difference when it comes to health and vigor and just coloration. And you could get fish that came in really small and now they're growing really well because they're getting live baby brine shrimp. And then when you add on more and more employees, and I'm not there as much, maybe we're not hatching out brine. And we went, probably 2 years at least not hatching out any brine. Now that we're hatching out brine again, because obviously we sell it and everything, the Celestial Pearl Danios are looking amazing. Customers are going, wow, these are amazing fish. And so, part of it is it's an expensive fish for anyone to buy. Whether you're the consumer, whether you're the wholesaler, doesn't matter, right? And then they have high upkeep too, right? So need to be lower temperatures, need to be fed more. They get outcompeted for food really easy. So there's all these things going wrong with them. I think it's just on average, if you have 8 hours a day to work in a store, you could spend 20 of those minutes messing with Celestial Pearl Danios, or you could mess with 20 other species and keep them very healthy. So I think people are strapped for time and money and all of that, and sometimes it's knowledge. Sometimes they don't have the knowledge to know what they need to be doing. But most fish stores, I find, they don't even feed frozen foods. Like, we've always fed frozen foods, and things like frozen cyclops do really well with Celestial Pearl Danios. And so if they're in a mode where it's like just some dry foods in, they'll, there's probably a category of fish stores that I kind of lump into, as long as we sell it before it dies, we won, right? And then there's, a category like we try to do is like, did we get as healthy as possible? And the longer it stayed here, it just kept getting better and better and better. We shoot for that, and that costs more money. We do charge more money. Like our Celestial Pearl Danio maybe costs $1 more than the competitor. I don't know. I know our neons and our cardinals and our rummy noses are more expensive, but also people say, like, I don't have to quarantine them. They don't die. Like, not that we never lose any, but typically you're getting a more quarantined, more, has more weight on it, just a kind of a better product from the get-go. And people that have been through that road kind of usually are willing to pay for it. I mean, I'm always willing to pay more money for a fish that has been taken care of better, that I'm going to have better odds with, right? So I think our clientele do as well. And, maybe your local fish store hasn't adopted that. Maybe they have. Maybe they're just only struggling with that fish. We can never know. But I do find that it happens a lot where you're just like, most stores don't even focus. They've got African cichlids, they've got community fish, they've got discus, they've got goldfish, they've got koi, they've got a saltwater section, they've got ferrets, they've got rats, they've got birds. Like, they've got the gamut. And then it's like, well, you can't expect everyone to like know and really put a lot of effort in to Celestial Pearl Danios if you're having snake problems this week, or you're like, oh, the African shipment, they're beating each other up, got to move them. Or, oh, the saltwater needs a lot of attention right now. So by us narrowing our field, we've been able to elevate some of the species, knowing that, we basically took all of our effort and put it into this, knowing that if we spread out, the effort goes down on all of them. So we also run a small store for that reason as well. How do Aquarium Co-Op's brine shrimp compare in size to the San Francisco Bay strain? Would the San Francisco be slightly smaller, better for very small fry? Also, would you get brine shrimp sieve from Brine Shrimp Direct? Our brine shrimp is a little bit bigger. I don't know by how many microns more, but visually it's a little bit bigger. And as far as a brine shrimp sieve, you certainly could. I'm a guy that hasn't used a brine shrimp sieve in 15 years. I mean, I've used them and I've tested them, obviously, but I myself don't see a need for one. I can see the need that other people might have for one, but I personally don't use one at all. I actively want the salt water and the ammonia that's in those brine shrimp eggs to feed the plants that are going to be in my tanks. I only run planted tanks, so I'm a fan of not rinsing it and getting rid of that. To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you have like, oh, I've got these live plants and I'm going to put this fertilizer in, which a lot of fertilizers are derived from ammonia. So I'm going to rinse this ammonia out and then I'm going to squirt this ammonia in. Same with all the minerals, right? When you start looking at minerals and fertilizers, you're like, wait, salt water with marine salt has these minerals. And so I try to find a balance where the little bits of salt and ammonia that's going in with a feeding are consumed by a plant easily before it would ever become a problem in my setups. So that leaves me with no need for a brine shrimp sieve. And then like our eggs, they hatch at an incredible rate. So you don't need to like spend lots of time separating and trying to separate and all of that. So we've tried to eliminate needing that device. Now that being said, it is on our very long list to someday develop because we realize there's more Deans out there that, okay, yep, I'm going to rinse them no matter what. I don't even like running plants in most of my tanks. Like, yes, a brine shrimp sieve is pretty easy product to develop, but we've got things higher on the list that would help many more people. So if we get down to that part, we would do it. But yes, if the question is, should you buy one from Brine Shrimp Direct? Sure, if you want to. I don't know of anything wrong with it, with their brine shrimp sieves. So I'm sure it would work just fine. You know, you get the right micron. One thing I will say is I don't like the multi-micron systems where, you know, you're like, oh, I could sort the different things. That just turns into a mess and a lot of work. So I would get just one. That's probably all you need. Is there any way to get in contact with you anymore like you used to do with the paid consultations? There is not. Unfortunately, I barely have enough time to do what I want to do. And even when we did it years ago, it was never good because too many people would forget and reschedule. And for me, my world comes to a crashing end. Like right now, I scheduled this in because I had a break between, I went to the gym to work out, took a shower, then I ate. And then after this, I'm going straight to, I'm going to do, I guess, an interview or something with Pec Tech for something he's working on. You know, so I schedule my time very tightly to always kind of be moving on to the next thing and working. And so when someone misses something and has to reschedule, it just doesn't really work. And then we also really had a problem where people would want to purchase some time, but it was on their time. So they'd be like, 4 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Coast time, you need to be ready. My fish are sick and I need help. And it's like, I'm asleep during that time. That's not going to work. Okay, well then fine, 8 a.m. It's like, I have a meeting booked at 8 a.m., you know? And so, or I'm in Peru right now. So the best way to get in contact with me, and this still isn't a one-on-one like, oh, I'm going to do all of this, is the forum. The forum, you can go there, you can tag me with the @Corey. I read all of them. That doesn't mean I respond to it because there's a lot of people that will just tag everything. They're like, I just want Corey's opinion on everything. If I feel that the question hasn't been answered by other people well, if I think it's actually specific to me or something, then I answer. But I don't want it to be like a doorbell, you know? It's like, oh, every time I hit the thing, I'll get the response. It needs to be, you know, I got to be able to manage time. And so I do put time into the forum every day. I put time into YouTube comments every day. You know, but everything scales. And so it gets to a point where, you know, even right now, we're at a point where there's more member questions, just members, than I can answer in a stream. So that would lead to like, of course, I couldn't answer everyone's question that even wasn't a member type of deal. So, you know, unfortunately, I'm only one guy, and I've tried to scale myself as best I can with blog articles and videos, and we're doing a bunch. You know, I've been working behind the scenes going, maybe we can get a tour going this year where we're looking at schedules, and we'd have to fly some people in from other countries and tour the country and do some, like, just show up at local fish stores and hang out, do dinner, that kind of stuff. Not big events, but just more casual hang out with you guys. Because that is, it's not, what am I trying to say here? I want to be clear that I'm not trying to avoid the work. I'm trying to make sure it's meaningful interactions, it's fair, and that not one person dominates my time, which that does happen, and it gets weird when I have to tell them, like, this is a disproportionate amount of time I'm dedicating to this. Nothing personal, but people always take it personally. It's like, but I could help 12 other people in the span of, you keep asking, is this pH okay? Is this pH okay? Is this pH okay? What about this fish? What about this fish? What about this fish? So, you know, whereas I could give insight to maybe another store where they've got a question about, hey, I know you bought from this vendor and this vendor. What was your experience? Should I import directly? Should I do this? And that would have an impact on many more people in the hobby than a one-on-one scenario. So unfortunately, no. And, you know, people offer big amounts of money. It's not about the money. So I want to be clear there. I'm hoping that YouTube will put maybe something a little better where I could do a little more one-on-one stuff. Even still, it's not that efficient. But yes, my goal is I want to spend the same amount of time with people. I just want to make sure that it's on my time. And there's people, you know, even when I announced this live stream, they were like, oh man, I got to be at work. I wish you did it 7 or 8 o'clock at your time. And part of me is like, well, that overlaps other streamers. They'll get angry. The other part of me is like, well, do I want to be live streaming at 8 till 10 p.m. at night? Normally, I'm answering business questions from other countries that late at night. And then around 10 or 11 is spend time with my wife and the dogs and watch some Netflix and kind of schedule a few more things, check on a few more emails kind of on the phone while I'm hanging out. And so, yeah, it's probably too much info, but that's the long-winded answer to that question, I suppose. Carolyn doesn't even have a question. Well, thanks for coming along, Carolyn. I appreciate it. I picked up a Schoutedeni puffer a week ago. What kind of nanofish tank mates would be suitable, to, if any, to add some color? Well, our experiences so far, when I had the Schoutedeni puffers in the 75-gallon tank, they were angels, no problem at all. When we moved them to Dean's 75-gallon, they got a little nippy on the corridoras and with each other. So that might have been a maturity thing. I'm hesitant to go, hey, go ahead and try, try adding these nanofish, because it's going to be hard to feed, like different foods. And if I was going to try stuff, I wouldn't try necessarily nano stuff. I would try things that are known to be hardy, fairly quick, and peaceful. So what comes to my mind right now would be, how about trying like some cherry barbs, nice and colorful, pretty laid back, easy to breed, not too crazy. I would try something like that. Cheaper. I think they could get away if they needed to. That's the kind of stuff I would try. I wouldn't go necessarily like Danios, where like, oh geez, they're just all over the food and it's a problem. But something like a cherry barb. I personally found that Jungle Val works great in a goldfish tank. They don't seem to bother it too much as long as it's weighted down a bit. Yes. Or if you use easy planners. My experience, exactly. And so the distinction there is, there are fish that will eat plants, and there are fish that just want to dig. And goldfish, in my opinion, are diggers. They just want to dig in the sand or gravel, and that uproots the plant, and over time, that's hard on the plant. But something like a planter, inserting into the center of a rock, putting big rocks around it, preventing that digging motion, lets the roots spread out enough, get enough food, and really start pushing that plant forward. Yeah, they can tug on it, they can nip at it a little bit, but being that they have that strong root base, that's what pushes them through everything, I find. How much water flow can Platies handle? I think they can handle quite a bit, because you see them in like streams and that kind of stuff. I've never put them to the test, but it's a pretty streamlined fish. So I bet it can handle a decent amount as long as it's got, not hiding spots, slow spots. You know, so you want to have it so they can get behind a piece of wood or something and chill out for 12 hours or whatever they want. Candy answers, faster, I'd go that route. Yeah, a lot of times I get pulled into customer service type stuff, and it all depends on the day. Some days, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of inquiries, and some days, like, oh, it's a lighter day and it'll be quick. We are actively doing, I guess that's something that maybe people don't know. We have an FAQ section now. We're continually, every week we add more and more. We basically watch what people are looking for. Like today it was, we were analyzing it, Lizzie and I, and one of them was someone kept searching variations of angelfish lip locking. And so they have angelfish that are lip locking, they're fighting. That's a common thing with cichlids. So then we think, okay, how would people find that? Let's put it in the FAQ. Let's write an article or a little thing about cichlids and lip locking and fighting and all of that. And eventually that'll roll out and that'll be a self-fulfilling thing. And that is one of the ways I do scale the time is a lot of in between meetings, what I do is I proof articles. Like all the blog articles and stuff, the videos and all that. I go, ooh, that, I'm not sure, like, yes, that is true, but it's a little dangerous to say that because people take that at face value. People might not know what that means. And so I'm always trying to put the Corey spin on it. And a lot of times, you know, Irene will do the first iteration on some things, and then some things it'll be, well, here's a good example. Irene wrote a blog article on Hydra. Because I asked her to, because I was like, well, there's no good resource on Hydra that we can really link to. Let's work on that. Then she wrote an article, right? I proofed it and all of that. Then while we were at the store last week, I saw that we had Hydra in the store. I was like, great, let's get footage of this, Jimmy, and I'll shoot a video about it. So now it was supposed to come out this week, but Irene goes, oh, well, I want to see what Corey says, see if there's anything to add to the article or anything we need to change. And so that way the information when it comes out will be, you know, kind of in sync with each other, not like, well, the article said this and Corey says to do that, and more of like a unified front. And yeah, so we're always working on behind the scenes on stuff like that, and that's where my time is best spent. And it's, you know, our blog, I'm very proud of it because it answers a lot of questions, and we get so much traffic to it, and you know, we're helping, well, I like to think we're at least helping people. Like I think the articles we put out are genuine information. It's not just shilling our own product or anything. Any of it could be transferred to other products. It does link our products when we do sell them, but we try to always give it a fair shake of like, you could use other stuff too. You could use this product we don't sell. You could buy this $1. Yesterday I bought 15 tanks from 2 different Petcos, 40 breeders. So if you saw that post, they were actually 40-gallon breeders, and it's a $1-gallon sale right now. You know, on one hand, you could say, never mention that, you're mentioning a competitor. On the other hand, it could help some people. You know, I've always been of the opinion, let's go save you some money at Petco, and with the money you save, hopefully you'll spend it with us. That's my hope. I had my community tank thriving for 6 months. I went on vacation and thought my Wi-Fi plugs would work, and they didn't. A lot of my smaller plants have died back. Died back as long as back on the schedule. Oh, will they pull through? Yeah, usually if you have a strong root base and you don't disrupt too much stuff, getting some dieback, it will come back. There's obviously a point of no return, but most times I would tell people you don't gain anything by removing the dead plant, and if it comes back, you have all the world to gain there. So I typically leave it, and if it dissolves and snails consume it and it goes away, all right, it's gone. If it goes, oh, look at that new growth, nature finds a way, then you're so happy you didn't throw it out. There's a question I've read like 3 times, and I always go, I'm going to answer that one next. I found no scientific testing was done that the Co-op Brine Shrimp hatch 6 to 8 hours faster than San Francisco Bay brand. Yeah, I don't know. I've definitely had other people report the exact opposite of like, I gotta hatch every 20 hours with my brine shrimp from San Francisco Bay, and yours takes 30 hours. I think they're just different strains of brine shrimp, and they have different characteristics. Dean and I and most people would probably agree to get the absolute maximum out of your brine shrimp yield, kind of 30 to 36 hours is a good time. But like in my fish room, I give it like 24, because the difference between 24 and 36 hours might be 10%. It's not huge. And it also matters on temperature and water makeup. There's a lot of factors that goes in. So a lot of what you get, you know, when you're making brine shrimp, it's like cooking. You know, Dean's got his recipe for biscuits and gravy. I've got mine. You know, my wife's got hers. The restaurant down the street's got theirs. Jimmy just made biscuits and gravy for the first time when we went camping the other week. They're all good. They're all tasty. They're all slightly different. They all accomplish the same thing. And I think that's kind of how the brine shrimp game goes. You're cooking up a batch of brine shrimp, and you've got different water to start. You're using heavy cream. You're using this salt. You're using these eggs. You're using this light on them. You're using this much air compared to this person using air at that rate. And so there's all these little variables. And especially with cooking, you know, if you whip something tons, it'll change it compared to, you know, like even if you're just doing flour. Like if there's an air pocket, it's way different than compacted in, right? And we run into that all the time with brine shrimp, and we can give that loose, like here's how we do it, and there's a whole variance of what's going to work. And then some people get down to like, well, I like the 2 hours faster, or I like this. And that's all criticisms are fair, especially when you not attack, that's the wrong word. When you criticize our products, I will always kind of just go, well, it's warranted. That's our product, and you know, I find a lot of times you fight back against criticism too much. It's like you're trying to hide something, and the reality is I've got nothing I'm trying to hide here. I try to make good products for people, and if they find value and they want to buy them from us, awesome. It allows me to do more of it. If it doesn't work out, I'm a pretty harsh critic on our own stuff. You know, I think we can still sell our auto feeder because I love that thing, but you know, when it crosses that 5%. Then you know, then I give it the axe typically. And sometimes, you know, it's just like, oh, the vendor is having a problem. They got it back on track now. We run into that quite a bit of like, oh, well, you know, it was Jerry's first day and he's made some mistakes. That happens. Alrighty. Oh, did we ever find out what was leaking in your fish room from the last video? All right, it means you're watching the videos, the members only videos. Joel was up there the next day, and it was still raining. And in the Northwest here, it has been, just raining some more, and raining. But the chimney, around the chimney is leaking, and a different skylight is leaking. So luckily, we've already scheduled to have all of the flashing on that roof repaired. It's a metal roof, and skylights replaced. They're not in yet, but all of that's been scheduled, so we're really hoping that fixes it all, because rain coming through your ceiling's not good. It's stressful. So the good news is we were planning to repair that anyway. Bad news is the rain coming through the ceiling. So hopefully they get to it soon. And yeah. I'm gonna be Candy's critiquing the biscuits and gravy from a packet. I don't hate. I like biscuits and gravy in pretty much any form. That's actually not true. There is one that I don't like. I don't like it when people get way too fancy with their biscuits and gravy. They're like, oh, like where were we? We went to Aquashella 2 years ago now or whatever. I stayed at a different hotel, and each one you got like a coupon, right, for breakfast. And they had this like, I don't know, trendy restaurant, I guess. Yeah, it's a restaurant. They only did like breakfast and lunch, I think. But the biscuits and gravy, you know, it had to have like saffron and capers and like crazy rare meat, and like they used a scone instead of a biscuit, and then the gravy was like off. And it was like they tried so hard to make this high-end biscuits and gravy that you lost the essence of like biscuits and gravy is kind of like warm, peppery. You got some meat in there. You got biscuits on there, and it just tastes. What am I trying to say? Like bland? Not bland, because it's got to taste good, but it's got a distinct, like, one size fits all type of flavor. And now there you can kick it up like, ooh, he's a good sausage in there. They did, you know, but you can't. They're like, they reinvented the wheel. You know, it's like this thing looks more like, what is that called? Like a Monte Cristo sandwich, but not the sandwich part. What do they call that? I'll scroll to the bottom. Someone will know. Like you know, the thing they make with hollandaise sauce and all. It looked way more like that and fancy than it did like bits and gravies. Kind of like just throw some stuff on a biscuit and put it on a plate, and it's gonna be amazing. So, and it was like $30, which the coupon, you're like, oh, I get $30 each morning. You're like, oh, it got you 2 biscuits that were this big, and it was like, and a water. You know, $30 biscuits and gravy. $30 biscuits and gravy should feed an army. That's what I'm saying. How many NERMs are we up to? I have no idea. Let me see if I can check quickly for you guys. Well, I say for you guys, but we are up to 1,917 NERMs total. Not bad. If you guys want to become a member, if you're listening in, you know, there's videos every other week or so behind the scenes, a little bit of chitter chatter, and then every once in a while a live stream. I think it's the second one we've ever done that's kind of been member only questions. Ever since we started the second channel, there's been a little bit less content coming out here, but it is part of my, you know, I had a meeting today, and Eggs Benedict, yes, that's what it was. I had a meeting today, and we're curating some more content, and we want to make sure that we don't take away from the membership. We want to bolster it up. So I don't know if we need to hire on another maybe content editor, because Jimmy's edits right now, in my opinion, are really good. They're labor intensive, takes a long time, but they're really good, I think. And I don't want to simply stack more stuff on his plate and go, hey, just spend less time, get more stuff out. Instead, I'd rather keep the quality up and go, okay, yeah, we got someone else editing like the member videos and helping film that, or whatever we're gonna do there. I also want to lean on some other creators, you know, on my team, you know, whether it's Lizzie and Jimmy and Dean and maybe some other like brand ambassador people, and Robert and Randy and other people I know too. You know, I reached out this week and I asked the Shrimp King to do a thing on shrimp diseases for me for a video I'm working on. So, yeah. So if you want to sign up, I appreciate it. It all goes towards doing more cool stuff. If you just want to support us ordering from the store, that's amazing too. If you just want to sit here and listen, we're here for that too. You don't have to spend any money. You know, you can consume all the knowledge. You know, we have to have some people help out. Like, obviously, it doesn't pay for itself, but yeah. So that's why they call it SOS. In my opinion, I thought SOS had to be chipped beef and gravy on toast. I don't know. That's just the way my grandma made it and taught me, so I could be wrong though. And Jimmy rocks? Jimmy does rock. Heads up products about new, or heads up posts about new products is a nice perk. That's true too. Yeah, we're working on a lot of things. So obviously we want to launch new products. Obviously we got to keep the YouTube channel going. And then there's like, well, what else are we doing as a company? We've got more people. We've got like 30 employees. Like, what are we working on? So we're working on like a VIP program. You know, if you spend a lot of money with us, we're going to find ways to make your experience a little bit better. One of the programs that kind of led up to a VIP program, yeah, and someone was asking earlier, like, oh, I got a sticker. It used to be you got those at random. Now, depending on the order you place, is a sticker you get. So not how much you spend or anything like that, but the first order you get, you'll get a sticker, right? The same sticker. The second order you get, as long as you were logged in and you create an account, right? Then it knows, oh, this is your second order. Give them this sticker. Oh, it's your third order? Give them this sticker. We've got all the way to like 25 or something now. If you never create an account, though, it's going to go, here's the first sticker. Next time you order, here's the first sticker. Next time you order, here's the first sticker. So if you want to collect the gamut of them, make sure you create an account on our website, and that will allow you to the code to know, oh, this, Regina Phalanges is the same one that ordered last time. Look at that. It's their second order. And because it's their second order, give them this sticker instead of that one. So, but we try to work on all kinds of stuff. You guys probably have seen shipping came down. Both, we came down to $4.99 flat rate shipping, and the free shipping threshold came down. So there's a lot of stuff we try and work on. And yeah, some of it is that going to make us more money? Some will be, is that going to help for members? Is that going to be better for people who spend lots of money? We've got an in-store program we're working on right now. We've got signage, and because we touch all these little things, and each one's its own little business. You got the retail store, you've got the online store, and then you've got kind of YouTube, and it's its own business. I mean, you guys probably watch other big YouTubers, and they run an entire business on just doing YouTube, just ad revenue and selling merch and that. Like, people always ask other businesses or YouTubers, like, why aren't you selling more merch? And I always tell them, like, I mean, we could. I'm sure we could sell more merch, and at some point we'll add more to our line. In fact, I'm wearing iPhondo, which I like him as a YouTuber. I'm wearing his merch, right? But I always say, like, there's only so much money people have, and I would much rather them go and buy that test kit, go and buy that sponge filter they need, instead of a shirt. If you need a shirt, by all means, please buy my shirt. But I don't want it to, kind of become too merch driven. And I get it. And it's a subtle difference between, the Aquarium Co-Op tubing. Is that merch? Like, maybe if you're buying it out of, like, I'm gonna put it on the shelf and, like, ooh, look, it's my tubing. But if you're gonna use it, it's like buying a cheeseburger to me. Like, oh, I consumed it. So, if I buy a Taco Bell hat, that's merch. If I buy their taco and I eat it, that's just a consumable. So I focus on trying to launch more and more consumables, because I feel like that is something people buy more often, and they can still give back to the cause without having to make that dedicated, merch purchase. African cichlids like water a little warmer, between 77 and 82. Maybe. They breed a lot at that, but if your aggression's higher, I ran them a little bit cooler, actually. If I really needed to breed them, I would keep the temperature warm. I really like to let fish go in a cycle. So in my fish rooms, it naturally gets warmer in the summer and cooler in the winter. It never goes below about 72, but it can go as high as 85. And that, I think that replicates nature a little more. That doesn't mean I'm right. That's what I think. SOS is a chipped beef with gravy on toast. Ate it a lot in the military. See, that's what I know it as too. I'll eat that as well. Oh no. Hubby won't even let me open tuna when he's home. My wife is the same way. The smell of seafood makes her ill. I mean, physically ill. So I have to sneak it when she's not home, and then make sure I clean up the evidence and, eliminate the smell as much as I can, because I love seafood. That's one of the reasons why I go camping with Bob and Jimmy, is we'll make seafood out there. And it tastes so good when it's like a forbidden fruit. So if you don't know, every other weekend, basically, I go camping with Bob and Jimmy, Steenfod Aquatics and Jimmy. And then we post to the Get Outdoors channel, which is just some shenanigans. And I barely speak, because I'm just zoning out, going, nature is amazing. Awesome. This next one I might be speaking more, though. We'll see. Because Jimmy said I'm in it more. But I try not to be the star of the show or anything. And mostly we see some cool stuff, so we want to film it. And, at the moment, I'm doing anything I can to take my mind and other people's minds off things they don't want to think about, whether it's coronavirus stuff, whether it's politics, whether it's, sassy becoming ancient and getting worse. Just anything we can do to keep our minds occupied. And so, it actually is, I think Jimmy and Bob are having a lot of fun kind kind of filming and editing that, and it's you know, giving a creative scratch to Jimmy's itch when it comes to that kind of nature stuff. And then for me, it's just like camping is something I used to do every summer when I was younger, and I haven't done it in many years since the business. And getting outside of cell phone range is when magic happens. Like my brain can actually work at full speed, I think, because there's not an incoming notification and someone's asking a question. So yeah, if you guys want to watch me, I burned my shoe in one. We cooked some bacon. This one we made some biscuits and gravy. You know, played with new toys that we all got from Christmas, like, ooh, a new camping thing, right? So if you're into that kind of stuff, it's probably good background banter. You know, you're off doing some, maybe you're, you know, cooking dinner and it's on the TV and you're just like, oh man, these guys are idiots. That's what it's good for. Uh-oh, I'm being, okay. Speaking of notifications, already distracting me. I definitely buy consumable from the coop, but I rep my coop hat and beanie everywhere. Some of the people at the local fish will recognize and said they watch the channel. Yeah, and that, I do realize there is a value to that. What I guess what I'm trying to say is, how could I say this? Like, let's say I've had the concept to do this easy planter for probably 4 years, right? And you wait on, do we have enough money to do this? Do we have the right partner that can do this for us? Can we get all those logistics done and all of that, right? And so I could spend my time trying to launch this product, or I can go, ooh, we only sell 4 different hats? Could sell 5, right? Oh, we only have 2 shirts? Could sell another one. Like right now, I you know, and please don't spam our customer service, but in a very long format thing, I am working on bringing sweatshirts back, hoodies, right? We're probably 6+ months out because now I'm going straight to, I want to go straight to a manufacturer and go, look, what can we change about these hoodies? What material? Is the zipper really good? What else can we do? Can we get the price at a price that I want to sell and do all of that and not just go, oh, well, I got another Teespring hoodie. It's $52 and its quality is right? So it's all on the list. And yes, so I appreciate you guys doing that. And I myself, I thought I was incognito enough, but I was spotted at Petco yesterday by one of the employees. I walked in and, are you Corey from Aquarium Co-Op? And I was like, I was wearing a mask and everything. How would they know? Like, I'm a fat white guy, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm wearing the Murphy hat. That giveaway. So, not that it's bad or anything. It's just when you're on a time crunch, I was like, I gotta beat traffic, gotta get back. But the employee was super nice, and they bought a sponge filter from us and had questions on hooking 2 sponge filters up to 1 air pump. It was all going to one side. I explained, ooh, you need an air valve on the side where it's all going to back off some of the air, and that will force it to go in the other one, so you can have both getting air. So then they asked, or I was like, you probably sell some, maybe the Elite brand, which is like a Hagen brand, or maybe Lee's. And then she asked if we sold it, and I was like, yeah, obviously we sell it, but you know, the store I was at it's a 45-minute drive, so it's not easy. No, it's easy. It's just not convenient. I remineralize with Equilibrium and other CCAM products that I'm drawing a blank on now. They've got one that's like Revitalize, something like that. It's more of like a liquid version of CCAM Equilibrium. Yeah, I like Equilibrium. Just got a Cardinal Tetra hoodie on Teespring. I didn't even, is it our Cardinal Tetra one? I didn't even know I made hoodie an option there. I might want one of those. What are my thoughts on Super Tect? I have no idea. I've never used this product. I am intrigued. Obviously, the King of DIY likes it a whole bunch, and I've been looking at reviews. So I'm hoping that more reviews will come in on Amazon, and if it's the next best thing, like, amazing. An all natural product that treats ick and fungal infections. That's insane. But so far I haven't got my hands on it, and I haven't done any tests because I guess you run into that thing where it's like, well, I've tested so many herbal remedies and not a single one has ever lived up to the claim, right? And some people might say like, well, the king of DIY says it works. Yes, but I have disagreements with stuff that he does too. Like I really am against saltwater dipping plants, things like that. So if the masses come in and they're like, yes, this thing is whipping ick and it's getting rid of fungal left and right, that's amazing. And I would definitely be like, how do I contact the manufacturer? We'd like to sell this product. But I would want to do a thorough testing with it to make sure it's like, what if you mix that and Icex and it's deadly or something? Like I have to be very, well, I think everyone should be very careful when they recommend stuff, and he's using it, so it probably does work for him. But the other thing that I would be comparing is, so even if it works, let's say it works, right? Does it work better or as good as like Icex and Maricin combo in the United States? If it works, like maybe that one right now, since it's the best, I think, is 100%. Maybe Super Tect is 80%. I would still use 100%, but I would definitely tell you in Canada, since you can't get these, use a Super Tect, and then maybe other countries, I don't know. But I haven't, it takes me months to do honest work with meds to the point where I could really recommend it, and because the problem I have, if I make a video about a medicine and 40,000 people watch it, and then we find out it is death to, like loaches. How many loaches did I just kill because I didn't test that? So typically it would go through my fish room. I would do some testing. I'd make sure like Randy and Dean kind of like, okay, we're all getting those similar results. Then we would do treatments of all the import or all the fish that come into the store a few times in a row. If like it kept really doing well, for sure we will endorse it and tell you all about it. But I'm slow to adopt these things because every week there's a new company like, this is the best, right? Like, look at all this feedback and look at all this. And honestly, fans like you guys and consumers and people leaving reviews on Amazon, that kind of stuff, they're the best. Because if 500 people leave a review, you can read through all of it and go, oh, this guy lost all their silver dollars. And then you read 50 more of them. This person lost all their tetras. And you go, oh, it's actually really hard on Harrison's or something. But I hope it does work out, because that'd be very convenient for a lot of people to have an herbal remedy to get rid of all that. Whew, that'd be good. Somebody have asked already, have you heard anything about Seachem Prime being discontinued? That's the first I've heard about it. Doesn't mean it isn't happening, but I'd be shocked. Like, that seems like a pretty product that's not going away. What's my favorite place to camp? And what sort of tent do you use this time of year? Well, if you watch the Get Outdoors, I don't use a tent at all. I do car camping. One, because I want to minimize setup and takedown. And then two, I'm about as glamping as you can get. So if there's a bathroom, great. A lot of places we go don't have a bathroom. So yes, you're going to the bathroom in a bucket. Not my favorite time. But my favorite place to camp, if I'm going to explain that, is basically anywhere near water is enjoyable. And then especially during the summer. Like, I don't think there's many better things than going out and swimming in a river or a lake, coming back to camp, sitting by a fire while you roast a hot dog and dry off. And then maybe you go back out to the water. Like, growing up, I was known as the river rat. I always wanted to be in the water. So to me, that's kind of my favorite. And then you're really tired and you're sitting by a fire and you go to bed, late at night, and you wake up and you do it all again. That's what I like to do. So I don't really have, the spot I can think of. Soda Lake was super fun. It's got salt in it, so you're like super floaty. But seeing different things is really fun. So I pretty much go. I try to stay as hands off as I can with Bob and Jimmy. I don't want to come in because I'm Jimmy's boss, right? And so I really don't want to have it feel like, oh, I'm camping with my boss. I want it to be more like friends. And that's why I asked them. I was originally like, don't just say I can come just because like I'm your boss or anything. Like if you'd like, it looks very fun and I would like to go. But I realize that this could be your decompression time, and therefore don't feel bad about saying no. And so far it's been going well, I think, and if it changes, that's fine too. I totally get it. Like just like I wouldn't want to hang out with my employees all day long every day. Eventually I'd want some time away too. So yeah, but I don't have any specific place that is like my go-to. It's pretty much I'll go anywhere. If there's water, I like it even more. And then if it's got a bathroom, even better. That being said, if it doesn't, have to make do. All right, I am blowing up with notifications. I just got to make sure. Bob says, I got wood, not as much as last time. So we're actually prepping for another trip. Yeah, Aquarius Podcast says, I'm blowing you up now, and it makes sense why you're not responding. Yeah. So that's why I was looking there. I was like, what is all this? Corey S. Nerves just want to see your gear and probably buy it. The back of the car with the mattress looked pretty comfy. Yeah, that's honestly, I'm not trying to impress anyone. I just want it to be like my whole goal is if I have to work really hard during the week, I want to hop in that car, drive somewhere where I can't get cell phone reception, and just hang out. And hopefully everything stays inside the car. So I'm trying to have everything be in a little like box up above, and just so I don't have to go like, oh, I'm going camping this weekend. I better start packing. I better start doing all this. It can't be like a 4-day event for me. Got to be maxing my time in nature. So, I've had to buy some stuff. That didn't work out. We bought some suction cups that totally didn't work out. It was raining. We had suction cups on the car and then some poles holding up a tent. Or not a tent, but a tarp. And the suction cups would not stay suction cups. So I bought some different ones. Hopefully they're going to work better this next time we go, because it's probably going to be raining again. Good morning from Singapore. Awesome. I was talking with someone. We're hoping as soon as travel opens back up to, the Shrimp King and I, Chris Lukup, Papua New Guinea, Singapore. There's some places on our list, and we're looking to go. So, well, I think both of us are really looking forward to getting back into traveling, and I really have enjoyed staying home and really kind of working on a lot of these products. We've got way further on products and advancements than we ever have, and we got way better. The warehouse is better than it's ever been. There's so many ways we push forward because I've had time to put towards it. But at the same time, that whole I wonder what Peru's doing right now. I wonder what that fish is doing right now. I wonder what that country I haven't been to is doing. I wonder how the farms are doing. I could go visit them again. All of that is still in my mind wanting to do. So I'm going to hopefully try and strike the right balance. What are my thoughts on shock fish tubers? I think they're dumb. I get that any fish tuber is probably a shock fish tuber at some point. Like, if I tell you I'm putting 100 rummy nose tetras in a tank, that's clickbaity. Well, not clickbaity because it's probably true, but it's for that headline moment. But when it becomes like that's all you're doing, and it's at the detriment of fish and the detriment of the hobby, and there are people that will do things because they know the controversy will elevate that video. So if I was to do something horribly derogatory, if say like this YouTuber is blah 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 and blah 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 and do all that kind of stuff, eventually that'll get onto Facebook and Reddit, and the war will start, and then views will be happening, and the ad revenue's rolling in, and all of that stuff. And I think in a hobby where there's still so much mystery, right? Do I want to be known for the guy that created the Goldfish roller coaster, Or do I want to be known as the guy that figured out plant allelopathy, that, oh, this plant fights this plant? I'd much rather be known for that. That would be useful probably for many years to come. I don't think I'll probably ever pull that off because that's a crazy amount of work, but I don't want to be known for the Goldfish roller coaster guy, right? You know, or, and I realize that everyone does their own stuff and we're all hypocrites. Like, I'm probably the guy that, like, he's always talking about food and tacos, and he's always thinks he's better than people. And he, you know, I get it. Like, not everyone's going to like everyone, but when you ask my opinion, it's like, well, I'm sure they're fine people if you sat down to dinner with them. And that's the thing, is I find that even YouTubers, I'm like, oh, I don't like the content you make. You're an awesome person, though. And even they, most times, will be like, yeah, but that's what pays the bills, man. I tried doing this other stuff, didn't work. And you kind of got to respect that, of like, well, if the boss tells you got to do something else, I guess you got to do it. And, but I think there could be a lot more done. You know, if you have, you know, some of those shock YouTubers have millions and millions of subscribers and all of that. And it's like, try to balance it with more education, I guess. I mean, I'm huge on education. So my thoughts will be always biasing towards that. And there's plenty of people probably that would be like, it's a waste of time. There's that too. So that's, you know, it's kind of, it's like trying to have a non-biased opinion. If you love something, education and all of that, when you see something not doing that, you naturally go, well, why wouldn't you do that? Right? So, and they might be doing the same thing, like, oh, I hate education. Learning's dumb. And then why would you do more of that? Right? Will I be coming down to Florida sometime to camp? Oh, I have a natural lazy river fed from a spring. I don't know. Like, that sounds pretty fun. And we have talked about, like, where could we drive and what could we do? But I think that's mostly daydreaming, because I just have a feeling, like, right now, if we go, it's like we only camp for one day. It's like getaway. But, oh, what are we going to fly there with camping equipment? Nope. Oh, if we're going to drive there, now it's like, okay, well, we can spend like 2 or 3 weeks camping and doing things. That now turns into like work, not just getaway, be fine. Now it's like, okay, we got to plan, we got to prep, we got to be away. Who's going to watch the dogs? Who's going to run the business? Do we have enough videos? What are we doing? And so, I mean, I'm more likely to show up in Florida for an event or something and catch some fish for fun, hang out with people, but I'd probably stay in a hotel just so it's a manageable couple-day thing. Shocking education, best of both worlds. I completely agree. That's actually why I go to farms. Is it's routinely I see things that just blow my mind, or if I'm in the wild, like, that's not what I know to be true, and so it is shocking. And that learning there is really, I really enjoy that. Merging those two can be difficult because usually the more shocking it is, the more views you can get, or the more, you know, attention, no matter if it's an article, whatever it is, versus the more education you go, like, the less views you can get, but like the more, I don't know, the more learning you get. So if you can strike that balance, it can be hard though, because if you go too much education, then you don't get the views, and if you go way too high here, it's not very educational. And when you get rewarded for the view side, like, oh, this is the side, the shocking side is the one that pays the bills, it's kind of like, well, why wouldn't I just do more and more and more of that? So that's why I try to reinvest everything we have into more blog articles, all that kind of stuff. Like, where else can we put our informational footprint down the best we can with our own practical experience? You know, it's not like we're making not medical journals, but like scientific journals every week. We're not that, but we try to share. I guess that's the biggest thing. I try to share with employees, share with you guys, share with fans, share just everywhere I can. Like, things are good. I'm not gonna lie, things are good. You know, I've got an 800-gallon aquarium behind me. How can I share this with, you know, enrich people's lives? You know, so on some of my employees, might be very enriching. Some fans that only watch me once, not so much. They can't even remember who Aquarium Co-op is, but try and touch as many people as you can and leave a positive impact. I'm known as the Ferrari as a canister filter guy. I'll take that. I like that. Do I like pineapple pizza? Does anyone like pineapple pizza? Ugh. No, I'm not a. I guess the best way I can explain it is I feel like pineapple should only ever be eaten cold. So, that being said, if I showed up to your house and you're like, we have pineapple pizza, I'm gonna eat it. I just would never willingly order it, ever. When's the next camping trip? It'll be soon. We don't say exact dates or anything because there's too many people that could have wrong intentions. We don't want to know, like, oh, when won't you be around? When won't this thing happen? So we try to keep it on the DL. Wait, there's a guy growing a pineapple out of a fish tank? That sounds amazing. Huh. What did I learn in Hawaii? Was it Hawaii or what? No, it was in Peru. If I remember right, it's one of the two ways, and I don't. This is as scientific as I get, by the way. So it's either this or the complete opposite. But in Peru, there was like these pineapple farms, and I believe the one guy that was doing it that we were impressed by had a strain of pineapple that didn't get the spikes on the plant, I believe. And so he was able to grow these pineapples. Like, I think the standard pineapple farm, pineapples got to be 3 feet from each other or they spear each other and the fruit goes bad, right? Because it's all spiky. But this specific type of pineapple didn't have the spikes. Like, they were able to just pull a morph at some point and they kept it going forever. And so this guy or farm or whoever, whenever they sold it, they would only ever sell pineapple with like the head cut off, because if you got one out, you could start your own, I don't know if you call, is it a pineapple orchard, a farm? I don't know what the correct term is, but you could start your own. And this guy made his living off of having pineapples that he could grow densely and didn't spike each other. And stuff like that is amazing, because that's how you make aquarium plants. Like when you see Cryptwin Deadeye Florida Sunset, that is a variant that was selectively bred and made by Florida Aquatic Nursery, right? And so same thing went on there to get that more different color pattern. Same selection process in years and years and years, just like the morph or work that would be done to get a spikeless pineapple. And so it was just cool to see that kind of stuff and go, huh, never, you know. And before that day, this is what I love about, you know, experiencing things. Like, one, before that day, I couldn't have told you if a pineapple grew on a tree, a vine, in the ground. Like, I don't know. You buy it at the grocery store in my mind. And so just seeing it, like, wait, those are pineapples? That's crazy. I didn't think it would grow like that. And then to learn about the spikiness versus the non-spiky ones and all of that. So yes, we go and we film about fish, but you end up learning so much about nature. And that's, you know, if I ever get to a point where I can have more people with me, like if we get to 4 billion NERMs, I can have more camera people. We could have channels or more videos at least that would just focus on, like, this is all the non-fish stuff that I found fascinating, because there's tons of that. When we go and visit other countries, there's so much to just like, wow, that was crazy. If anything, I could do a whole food show of just like, oh my gosh, you guys have never had, like, having fresh hummus in Israel is like nothing you've ever had in the United States, or at least that I've ever had, you know. And then having different foods in Peru, and that was very fascinating too. So yeah. All right. Didn't realize it was a live stream tonight. That's right, it's impromptu tonight. So make sure you got the notifications and they're actually turned on your phone or whatever device, because I'm gonna try and just live stream. And I say try because I don't want to tell you, I don't want to lie to you guys. Like, oh, I do it every week. I'm gonna try to do it more often. And if I miss that Monday due to something, it's pretty much a no-go the rest of the week, because everyone else is live streaming all the time. So now I'm just, unfortunately, I'll just go when it's convenient for me, and always, you know, hopefully word will get around to all the fish tubers that If I accidentally go during your live stream, I'm sorry. You know, it's better than me not going for myself. I realize it's a selfish thing, right? But especially when you have guests over, like, you know, I'll have Dean like, should we go live? This person's probably going live, and then it's going to start a thing, so we won't go live, and so we just end up not doing a lot of stuff. How do I use a filter such as a Diatom filter to periodically polish my tank? With those, the way they typically work is they're going to have like a, for lack of a better term, like a mesh bag, something that will hold the powder. So what's going to happen is you put water through something, and as that water's going through, your mesh might be 200 microns, and yeah, it would catch like a leaf and that kind of stuff. But then you put in the Diatom powder, and now it's micron level once all the powder gets affixed to the mesh. And I don't remember what mesh a Diatom filter is. It's probably like 50 micron or something. But once the powder gets attached to that, now it filters out like 5 micron and less. That'd be like green water and ick and all that kind of stuff. And what's nice about it is because the powder coated the filter, when you stop, a lot of the powder will fall off, but then you can rinse it off in the sink. So you take like this one time, well, here's a Jersey Mike's napkin, right? And if I was to, wipe my mouth, now we have a dirty napkin. But if we put a layer of Diatom powder or something to protect the napkin, and I wipe my mouth, and then we could rinse off the powder, and then I had a good napkin still, we could keep reusing the napkin. And Diatom powder is fairly cheap, and you don't waste a lot of plastic and everything with the filter cartridges, I guess, is kind of what it is, membrane, by being able to reuse it all the time. So the one thing you don't want to do is don't use a Diatom filter without that powder, because then you pretty much just clogged up your thing, and you will have to buy a new one. But using it maybe once a month or something like that, or if you had like maybe did a big cleaning and the water's cloudy, or Christmas is tomorrow, or whatever it's going to be, and you really want it to look good, or you're like, oh, I'm filming all day tomorrow, I'm taking pictures, that'd be a good time to really polish a tank. Did I just read something like germ nerm? That's amazing. Wait, am I a germ nerm now? I don't know what that's about, but germ nerm, it just sounds funny. What single fish with personality would you recommend to thrive in a 40 breeder? I would do a goldfish, like just an Aranda probably. I think you maximize your kind of personability, ease of acquisition, relatively low maintenance. I think that's the reason why goldfish are so popular, honestly, because they hit a lot of those check marks. Gotta keep an eye on time, because I still gotta make sure I use the restroom and make sure I'm ready to do an interview or whatever it is with Pec Tech. So I get bored on other live streams, no content. Yeah, I mean, I run a pretty critical eye on a lot of stuff, and my biggest pet peeve that I have is people that just read the chat. Now, I realize I read the question, but my goal is, if it takes me 20 seconds to read the question, in a perfect world, I'd spend 2 minutes with the answer. Because if we're just reading, if I just read every line, how is that any different than you just reading a Reddit or a forum, right? Yes, I'm reading it to you, but and trying to give my own insight, and it is difficult, by the way. It was much more difficult when we had like 100 people in the chat, because it could be really slow, but then you just have to be more about, what am I going to present? And I think a lot of what goes on is people don't realize the audience they have. And so what I mean by that is, if you had to give a presentation to 30 people at work, or maybe you're at school and you got to give a 30-person presentation, you spend a lot of time prepping and making sure it's right. You don't want to look dumb and all of that. And then you come online and it's just fast and loose of like, whatever's gonna happen, right? And then, when you start thinking about it, it's like, well, right now we have 1,000 people. If you imagine 1,000 people in a room, that's crazy. We get 200, 300, 400 at a like a aquashella or something where you're presenting to them and you take it very serious. I take this very serious as well. My wife can attest, like, I don't want interruptions when the dogs come in, just all that kind of stuff, is because I'm trying very hard. Now, it might not seem like it, like maybe just like this guy is barely holding it together, but I put a lot of effort into what could make the show better. How could I work on saying or like maybe I'm doing that, or as a sound. Like I try hard to go, how can I keep people's attention and then also give them value? Because time is the one thing that is the most expensive in the world. When you're young, maybe it's not worth very much. The older you get, the more it's worth, right? And so I really do try to take it serious. And that's why if I'm not in the mood, if I know I'm just like, I'm just phoning it in today, I don't even want to go live. It's like, you don't want to give a bad show or a bad presentation, or you're in the wrong mood. And so why not try and wait till like, okay, I'm in the zone right now. Let's do this. And so I think a lot of people live stream too often. There's that as well. There can be too much of a good thing, and I know there's so much more I could do or get better at. And it's been a while since I've really tried to tangibly get better at doing live stream, because I do think I do an okay job. But the new studio, it's going to be bigger. And so that's going to allow us to bring more people into it. And adding people really makes it a lot harder to be able to keep the conversation flowing in a natural progression with even just like Dean and I, or one other person and I, because someone's kind of got to be reading and leading the dialogue and keeping it entertaining. So there's some stuff I'm going to try as well. I've got some stuff I want to try, and I think if you're not trying to grow, then it's probably going to get stale for everyone. So if I always just do the same shot, I always just answer the same questions, and there's going to be a lot of repeat stuff, but how am I trying to make it better? Can I bring on guests? Can people call in? Can people, I'm constantly testing software. I was testing it last weekend. New software to see, is it going to do what I want it to do? Can we get a different software that'll do both the things we need to do? That part of it is you guys supporting in whichever way you choose to support helps fuel that. When it's a lot easier to go, hey, I know I've got 1,000 people that are paying $5 a month. So there's thousands of dollars that says this camera should be better. This microphone should be better. I should take the morning off and get the show ready. I should think about, what do people want to see? What do they want to do? I try to think about these things, and I got quotes on a new fish tank that might be in the new studio, and I'm trying to think, what can I do that will, you can never please everyone, but what can I do that will touch on things we maybe haven't touched on in the past? What will look cool? What will do all of these things? And if you're not focusing on that, I think over time you just hit a wall. And when you hit that wall, then it's like, all right, time to click the button. Yep, it's this time. I do this for 1 hour or 2 hours, and then I'm done, and I do it again next week. It's like going to work. If you do the same job over and over and over and over again, it gets really stale. So I try to go, how can we switch it up a little bit? And I realize this format, there's not a whole lot you can switch. You can get a little better. You could change, lighting a little bit. Well, apparently my light won't change. I don't know what went wrong. But we try. And dog attack. My wife, even she came up with a new thing for the live stream, and I said, yes, we can do that. People will enjoy that. That's the good news is I have a great support system. I've got my wife, I've got lots of great employees who, hey, have you tried this? What do you think about that? And so at some point we will do the thing my wife wants to do on the stream, and I think it's going to be awesome. So I'm glad to see that, and there's obviously I've got great mods and people that put in time here, and we've got, you know, there's lots of people that are members or just people that hang out in the chat that are here every single week and are answering other people's questions, trying to help them. Just because you didn't get the moderator thing doesn't mean I don't see you helping people. Like, it's all kind of a community effort here. And as we get bigger and bigger and bigger, like right now we're a small town, right? And as we kind of go, hey, that person looks like a struggle, I'm going to help them out. You know, that over time gets noticed, and it makes a better place for everyone. So, you know, I just tried to focus on some of the bigger stuff, and you know, I sometimes I do wish that I had more time to focus on live stream and video and stuff, but then you guys wouldn't get the products and you wouldn't get the retail store experience, and so I do have to split my time up. I want Aquarium Bob Monday stream. I know you guys streamed together before. Yes, so even behind the scenes, that was already in the works. So if you put the ducks together, right? Why did I switch to Mondays? I was trying to build up Bob's live stream. That's, you know, trying to help him with that. And so that it'd be a natural transition so that when I do stream with Bob, it will seem natural. On the back end, he was building out a new studio room, right? And I had one of the people working on one of my buildings help fix some drywall over there, all to eventually make that transition. Now, unfortunately, Bob is moving, and that won't happen that way. It doesn't mean it won't happen at my house or my studio or something like that, but yes, all of that kind of stuff. You know, there's a lot of things that, because I've got, you know, 50 things in the air, I have to throw them really high so that they take a while to come back down. And something like streaming with Bob, it's like, I know I want to do it, but we gotta, like, all right, give me enough time to get it to where we're gonna be able to do something more than just, you know, something simple, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do. If it's like, oh, I just gotta do a thing, I can just do a thing. But what can Bob and I do that we can't? That's always my ask when I'm gonna collaborate with someone. What is it that you and I can do together that we can't do alone? Right? So, because if it's just like, oh, you both can do a live stream for 1 hour, and instead we'll do a 2-hour one, that why collaborate to pull that off, right? But could we, you know, could it be a 24-hour event or a week-long event, or could it be we're gonna play Jeopardy? Like, what is it that we can do different that we wouldn't do normally? If you can answer that question and it comes back with, that sounds awesome, I'm 100% in. But when it's just like, you know, you just want to be on my stream? Like, sure. But what are we going to do that's different than if we just normally go live anyway? If it's not different, I can do that in the middle of a Wednesday night, as opposed to, okay, well, next Thursday at this time, I have to be there. And it's a lot easier. I live in Seattle, in the Seattle area, and would love to be a guest on the live stream at some point. Anything I could do to possibly make that happen? No. Mostly the new studio, I want very few people there. 2, it becomes one of those, not trying to sound elitist, because it's what's it going to sound like, but when the time is right, you'll get invited. So that means like, oh, look at this, you're doing a really cool project. August. Would you like to come talk about that? Like, we would notice, and then we would do that, not the other way around of that. And so, because it takes, there's a lot of stuff that has to go on, like who's going to be there, you know, are we going to have the right stuff for them to drink? We got to provide food. We have to make sure we get the clearance for insurance. We got to make sure this happens. We got to line up a lot of stuff to make that happen. So it can't just be like, oh, well, it's willy-nilly, and then, you know, someone tripped and put their hand through an aquarium and now, you know, there's a problem. You know, there's a lot of stuff that has to go on. And so also it's like, oh, make sure the dogs are put away, make sure that people are going to be there, make sure. So for the most part, we say no, because once you do that, then there's, like last time we had guests, people were getting offended that they couldn't be on the show. And then because they weren't on the show, then they would work against us. And it's like, well, we obviously can't have 10 million people on the show, so not everyone's going to get selected. And now that you weren't selected, now you're very angry and anti-Aquarium Co-op. So that's unfortunate that, you know, it's not just like, oh, you know, if I play the lottery and I don't win, I don't instantly hate everyone else on the planet. I just go, oh, I didn't get selected. But there are some people that will take it that way, like everyone wins besides me. It's like, no, 1 out of a million people won. You know, most people didn't win. Most people weren't on the show. And not that being on the show is winning. Like, I don't want it to be like it's this elevated thing. But just realize that there's going to be, you know, might be, hey, we want to talk to people that moved across the country and keep fish. Great, that would be August. We know he did that. We know that Thatch, our employee, did that, right? So there might be a chance there. But I don't want to create this, like, what do I got to do to get on the show type of thing. Because it devolves is what happens. And it's unfortunate. Nothing personally against you, honestly. I would love to see another stream with Gary Lang. Could that happen? It could. So one of the things about the studio being that it'll be bigger again, and if Gary Lang came to speak at like the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society, it's much easier to go, hey, you want to stay an extra day and be on this show as well. And for instance, that would have to be on a Tuesday night. Well, wouldn't have to be on a Tuesday night, but that's when the club meets. So it'd have to be a Wednesday or maybe a Monday, depending on their schedule. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, it's going to overlap someone, and someone's going to get super angry. And it's like, so I had the option of having a Gary Lang on a Wednesday night or not doing it because I didn't want to step on people's toes. And I think the greater good of the hobby is like, well, if we can have someone like a Gary Lang speak, even if it's got to be over someone else, like, capturing that footage is worth doing it. So that's where I'm taking this looser approach, I guess, to when I live stream. Reading lots of stuff to find the next thing to not worth commenting, but that will make sense to a lot of people. What's my experience with a flagtail Procholotus? Do I think they could be kept in a large school in a 210? Nope. I don't even think you can keep one in a 210 for its full life. I've had probably 2 or 3 of them that I've kept long-term-ish, where they hit that 18+ inch mark, where that's a big flagtail. Because they get that big, they're pretty hungry. It's kind of, to my opinion, they're very similar to like a bala shark. They look really cool. I like them. I'm not sure at the scale of aquarium. Like, I've only ever kept them in up to like 300 gallons. No, 360 gallons was the largest I kept it in, and it outgrew that. So, you know, maybe I could try it the 800 gallon. Is that big enough? I don't know yet. Right? But what if now I got 10 of them and now, oh my gosh, they outgrew the 800 gallon. What's next? So I tend not to go down the rabbit hole where I'm like, oof, 360 wasn't enough. What if 800 is not enough? What if the next thing's not enough? And keep it reasonable. But yes, one of them, and they're very cool, but what do you do with it when it hits that that huge mark? What am I? Okay. Cool. PecTech just messaged me. I just wanted to make sure he wasn't ready to go now. We are winding down, though. Dwarf freshwater gobies and koi loaches too competitive? No, I think that would work. I think you'll be okay with that. Depending on which goby, like some of them, like the Rhinogobica species, can be a little more boisterous around food and everything, but koi loach is laid back, mostly scavengers on both of them. What's my opinion on cube-shaped tanks? I like them if they have lids. I considered getting 2-foot cubes for the studio, mostly because the tables I have are 2 feet front to back depth, and I didn't want to waste space. But it saves so much money, and I really like 40 breeders that I was like, let's go with the 40 breeders. And it was easy to get, and I didn't have to custom order them or anything. And I don't like tanks that don't have lids, or at least the option to have a lid, a good lid, because too often species want to jump, evaporation's high. And if I'm going to do that, may as well do a pond, is my thoughts. Are there any fish in the 800 gallon at all? Nope, there's not a single fish in there that I'm aware of. I mean, I think I would know considering I haven't seen one in 6 months, but for all I know, soon I'm gonna have to, I mean, not like soon, but like maybe in the next month or two, I gotta take everything out of there, and maybe I'll find some crazy little like, oh my gosh, look, there was one reticulated hillstream loach living in the middle of that log that I never saw. It's weird that a lot of the general questions are asked on live stream when most of the time he has a whole video based on the topic. Well, I do think, I used to think about that a lot. So if we have 1,000 people here, I bet you half of them are newer to the hobby and they don't know that we have 1,000 videos, and they sometimes don't know what to search. Maybe they've got, you know, an ammonia problem, and yeah, you could search kind of ammonia videos and that kind of stuff, but maybe they really need to be learning about cycling an aquarium. And so I think it's a better version of Googling something, of like, well, when I put it in here, if they read the question, they answer it, I'm going to get a detailed answer about my specific problem and not have to try and go, does this apply to what I'm trying to do? And so, I mean, I get that. It used to be really frustrating for me, and then after years and years of it, you're like, okay, so how does this happen? We tried educating and like, look at all the stuff we have, and that didn't work. And so I think it's just a natural, like, you're going to know, like, oh, every time you meet a kid that's 4, he's going to ask about Santa Claus. Like, but we wrote articles and we wrote books and we put up signs and we did all this stuff. Like, it's just going to be a thing. And so once you kind of get past that, you go, okay, well, I'm just here to help people. Let's make sure we mix in new and old stuff and keep helping as many people as we can, and let people know there are tons of resources on our website and the YouTube page here. You can always self-educate, but when we can, we'll fill in other places. We're opening up a can of worms? Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. I just watched the old live stream. Dorkily made her kneel on the floor. She has had a seat before. And the problem is that was an impromptu thing. And she says, I'm only going to be here a minute. And then it turns into a longer thing. And then I look bad. It's a prime example of why I don't like any interruptions, because there were things that came about that I was beating my wife and things like that, where you're like, so because she kneeled here and said, I'm just going to be here not very long, I now beat her? Like, so things devolve when you have hundreds of thousands of people watch something. Everyone can interpret it differently, and that I don't respect her and all of that. And it's like, no, you know, it's like if someone just said like, oh, just wait 1 minute, you know, and if they make you wait 2 minutes, is it like, oh, they hate you? Like, no, they just misjudged their time or whatever, or maybe she thought she was going to be here for 5 minutes and she really liked being on the stream, and then it's like, okay, do we interrupt the whole show and go like find a chair and all of that? And you can watch, there's been other streams where it's been just her and it's a different show. Not that it's bad, but it takes her a little bit longer. She doesn't know the answer to all the questions and that kind of stuff, and that's fine. But people expect a certain thing. So if I'm going to do that again, yes, it's going to be, oh, it's my wife and myself. Plus, you don't want to deal with the derogatory comments for the next year of everything that goes along with being a woman on the internet, you know, and it extends. We have a retail location. It extends much further than just someone left a comment. Oh, they sent gross letters and things like that to the retail store, and things like, you know, reply back if you're being held captive, and just all of that kind of stuff where you're just like, how did that come out of that live stream? Also knowing, like, you just watched that live stream, so maybe the vibe is weird there, but then you could watch, like, this live stream and be like, clearly she's hanging out in the chat, and she says and talks about whatever she wants. It's not like, you know, she can't have a free mind or anything. So that's where things that go unplanned in a live stream like that make it stressful and difficult, because you're wondering about what's going to be said. And, you know, I've had it where guests are on the show and they say something and it impacts business relationships, it impacts customer service, it can impact demographics of people of like, that's not what they meant, you're taking it out of context, they meant to say this, they even clarified it later in the stream but you didn't watch it, you know. So there's all of that stuff, and so that just makes it exponentially harder. And so I try not to make it harder, because if it's hard, I don't want to do it. That's what it comes down to. I've got a mystery infection in a community tank that I finally got it defeated. How long do I wait before adding other fish? Ginger, I always go, are we in a rush? And the answer probably should be no. So I think for me personally, it's somewhere between like 2 and 4 weeks. You know, like, okay, they've been rocking and rolling for at least 2 weeks. All right, maybe I'll get some fish now, put them into quarantine, they live there for a week or two, and then I put them together. Now, the more time you give, the better your odds get, but maybe like at 1 week you're like 50-50, at 2 weeks maybe you're like 80-20, at 4 weeks you're at 90-10, maybe at like 6 weeks you're still like 92-8. So you do get better odds, but at a certain point it's not going to get much better. And I think a couple of weeks is a pretty fair. Things like if you had an aquarium that had nothing in it and ick was there, it'll die off in about 2 weeks. So some stuff will just die off without a host or would reinfect. And that 2-ish weeks and more, I think, gives you most bang for your buck time-wise. Because we all want more fish faster. We want to repopulate. We want to make it look good, all of that. Any chance on bulbitis or lace plants on the site in 2021? I don't know the answer to that yet. I haven't really reached out to the farms that do the Apontigitans this year. So that means, like, I don't know, like, if they got great crops going before COVID hit, maybe, oh man, we're looking great, we're going to bring them back. Or maybe COVID interrupted it and they didn't work the farm and therefore we're delayed another year. So I'm not sure on that yet. I do have at least one more plant we're looking to bring back, and we're working on the right blog article, the right video, so that everyone understands it. It left because too many bad reviews of immersed grown to submerged grown transition. So we want to educate about that a whole bunch, and then we bring that plant back, and I think people will enjoy it. I won't tell you what the plant is, because then you're going to, not you, but people will email and go, when are you going to get it? When's it coming? And the answer is when we're ready and we've finished our prep work to give the right experience to everyone. What's been my most challenging breeding project so far? The one that I put the most effort in and took the longest was marbled convicts that had like the orange and everything on them. And I bred them a bunch of times in the store, but I'd take them home and they would not breed. I eventually did do it. But luckily, not too many things have been crazy hard. A lot of it is just time, and then some of it is knowing what you're willing to do. So like, cardinal tetras would be difficult for me to spawn. I think I could probably do it with enough effort, but I believe I would give up far before I'd be successful. So I don't attempt to do it, knowing that I would fail, and there's probably a different fish I'd rather breed, because I can just buy those readily, right? So, you know, when I look at successful breeders, part of success is knowing what you're going to be successful with. Like, okay, I've done this. What are the odds I will be successful at that? And not biting off more than you can chew. So like leopard frog plecos, they're now breeding at Dean's house. I've bred well, I won't say a lot of different plecos, but a few different pleco species. I do believe had I kept them here long enough, I would have eventually bred them. Now, that being said, typically with YouTube and the way my fish room goes and everything, a 3+ year commitment to breed something, I've learned that it's likely that I won't uphold that that vision long enough, and I'll pass along to Dean or someone, and so I don't get into these very long-term projects. Now, I might be able to do that in the new fish room with more ponds and more tanks, because I'll have more space. So that might be a thing. I might try it a little bit more, but I already know it's really hard to get behind, like, in 3 years, I got a chance at doing this. And Dean does it in a couple of his tanks, but it's a very long-term thing, and it's not a rushed thing. Now, Dean, if you did a live stream, I'd watch religiously, but can't wait to see you in the future videos. Part of it is, too, like, it's hard to be always on every week and be entertaining. So I think, you know, I tell people all the time, given a choice, I'd much rather be a guest on someone's channel or work behind the scenes than be the person that has to be in front of the channel, because you can do a lot of work and you can do it, you know, to do a live stream, I basically need to do it during business hours. But if I just needed to work on something like the channel, I can do that 2 o'clock in the morning or 8 a.m. or whenever, 20 minutes here, 5 minutes there. I have to block out the time, and, you know, my house comes to a standstill. You know, I told my wife, I was like, I'm going live, you're not home right now, make sure you don't barge in. And it's not that, you know, she would do anything wrong, it's just like, what if she came in with paperwork that was like a bill and it's got our address, or there's this stuff where you're like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do now, right? Because we're live on the internet. And so there is that little bit of burden on everything. And so I do hope Dean can come over more and be on the live stream more. But even that, like, we've been trying to schedule getting together to work on the fish room and all of that. And he's got stuff going on in his life. I've got stuff going on here. And we won't even be able to get together this week. So we tried, right? Entire 7-day period. There's no point at which his free time and my free time overlap to get something done. So we'll try again next week, right? But it also, I think, keeps it fresh. If you watched me or Dean or anyone every day, you just burn out. You know, if you eat you eat your favorite food every day, 3 weeks later you're tired of it. You want it again in the future, but you know, you can burn out on anything. I'd like to watch a once a year cooking show with Dean. Me too. I just want to be the tester. You know, I want him to have like like Emerald or something, or whatever the cooking shows were, where basically you'd have the chef making everything, and then you have like the 4 useless people at the counter, and then they'd finally serve it up and be like, oh, that's nice. Not that you'd pay me if I said it tasted terrible, but sat here for 40 minutes. I really like the way you put the saffron in it. So it's if you want to see what Dean's doing, follow his Instagram. He posts fish and cooking pictures, and it looks good. Like, showed me the other night, he made lobster ravioli. Ooh, looked good. To be fair, I've known Dean a while now. I've only ever had, let me make sure that's true, 1 meal cooked by him, and it was really good. Can we get better product descriptions for the online store? Well, which product description needs to be better? So the reason I ask is because we just redid all of it, and there's lots of sections to it. So we've got like bullet points, we've got the main description, we have the specifications, we have the blog article section, we have the reviews section, we have the pictures section, we have the video section, and we have the manual section. So if there's a manual for it. So we have all of that for the 300 plus products. And so, a legit question is which part is lacking, so that we could go, okay, let's see if we are lacking there. I mean, the goal is every single product will have a video. It'll have a blog article, at least one. It'll have a description. It has measurements. It has quick tips. It's got a manual if one exists. Like we've been spending a lot of resources and time developing stuff. And so what I find is a lot of people are like, well, I didn't know there was a 4-button thing you could click and just keep getting more information. So yeah, let us know. Dwarf Gourami pro tips. Tank mates for a 40 long. I don't know if there's any like pro tips for that, other than like just keep the one because they're an alpha dog type of species. And tank mates, lots of tetras and barbs and schooling fish, really, corridoras. You could do some rams and that kind of stuff. Just don't do more you can do gouramis, but you have to do a lot of gouramis, not just like, okay, I've got 2. Like that's not a good idea either. But lots of schooling fish, live bears would work if you can merge the line on pH and hardness and stuff. What would the best way for me to get a 33 long? At the moment, I don't know. Most tanks are sold out. I mean, one of the reasons I bought from Petco is I couldn't get them in from our wholesaler. So I don't know if I've got a tangible like I don't think we can realistically get you one at the moment because I don't think they have any. So I'm not sure. COVID shut down a lot of production on tanks. So I was talking with one of the managers at Petco, and they're like, yeah, it's weird. We did a sale, and then we did another sale now because we only got 10% of the tanks we needed back around the Black Friday sale. So even they couldn't get the tanks. So I'm not sure how to reliably get one because maybe it's like they will like produce them after they get the common tanks. I'm not sure. Where was I going next? I had something lined up, but I don't remember. Oh, here it is. I know my parents made a mistake on your website by ordering the small roll of air tube because there wasn't a picture for it, so they didn't know to change the length. Because there wasn't a picture for it. I'm trying to envision what that means. I'm going to look. I go to air accessories. So I see that we have a picture for, like, we have this, right? And then we also have a picture of the 300-foot spool. Let me think. Maybe it's because we don't have, when you click on the 300-foot spool, it doesn't automatically change the picture to the 300-foot spool. I could see that possibly being a thing. I might be able to change it on the fly. Let me see if I can change that on the fly for you. A lot of this is, if we don't know the problem's happening, it's really hard to fix a problem you don't know exists. I see. So I can tell you that currently we did our part. And what I mean by that is, in our system, there is the 300-foot picture associated with the 300-foot spool. At some point, the developers have probably made a change that made it so that that picture doesn't change when you choose it. So now I go back to our developers and I go, hey, at some point, at some version, this got messed up. We need to make it so that when you click the 300-foot spool, it shows that picture. And I'm sure that happens in some other product variants of like lights or something, where not every light will have every size, but this is a big enough difference that, yeah, we'll make a note of that, and I will try to get that fixed in a timely manner. So good on you for calling that out. Let's see here. All right, I can look at the website, but do you know if replacement sponges are available for the sponge filters? They are not. The reason being, you would pay the same amount of money for a sponge as you would the entire filter. So basically all of it is the same. It basically takes the same size in a box, in storage, shipping from China. And so that's why we don't have it, is unfortunately there's no upside for it. And it's a whole nother product SKU. We'd actually have to, it actually costs us more money to sell just a sponge because we'd have to run a whole different SKU. They'd have to be bagged and barcoded in something. So yeah, unfortunately, you just have to buy another one. Which, it's not bad to have extra parts, by the way. So you get that whole sponge filter. You're like, I only need a sponge. But if any other part, you ever dropped it or it got broken or anything like that, then you have those reserve parts. All right, it's been 2 hours. I should probably wrap this up because I've got 15 minutes till I got to be doing my next podcast or interview or whatever it is. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for everyone that became a new member. If you're not a member, don't worry. This stream's still public, and the reality is that, yes, I didn't get a chance to answer your specific question because you couldn't answer it, but you know, just something I was doing today. I've only ever done it once before, and yeah, I don't know if I'm going live Monday. Monday's stacking up with a bunch of stuff I gotta get done already. It just happens like, oh, what about Monday? Like, oh, not optimally, but okay, I can do Monday. I'll try to make it work, and we'll see how we come out. But thanks for hanging out, and try and enjoy some nature. Like, grab a chair and sit down in front of one of your tanks you haven't sat in front of in 6 months, and just see if anything different's going on. Look at that worm. Look at this. And that's what I like to do. So hopefully you'll do that. And I'll see you, well, probably Friday for a video. And Sunday's video features Dean, all the stuff you guys should have asked for Christmas. He's highlighting some stuff. We were at the warehouse late, shot a bunch of videos. I think that's one's coming up next because it's a time-sensitive video. And but yeah, make sure you're watching the second channel, More Aquarium Co-op. We put out videos there. We put out a short middle of the week, just a little short video, and check out the stories too. We do little YouTube stories and the community page. You get little updates everywhere, and the forum. So if you're looking for more Aquarium Co-op stuff, there's little snippets and stuff everywhere. So even if you're going, I put out one video a week, it's like, oh no, we do at least 2, plus stories, plus we did that short, plus we put out an article, plus we did posts on the forum. And I'll be doing pieces of content with Peck Tech tonight. So I'm always in the mix somewhere. And you just got to look hard enough and you'll find it. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Back to work I go.